Most people talk about elephants as if they are one animal with one story. In reality, 3 living species are recognized today: the African bush elephant, the African forest elephant, and the Asian elephant. That difference is not just academic classification. It changes how we understand behavior, habitat needs, and conservation priorities. African bush elephants are generally larger and more associated with open habitats. African forest elephants are adapted to dense forest life and are built differently for that environment. Asian elephants have their own body profile, distribution, and relationship with human landscapes across South and Southeast Asia. If we collapse all elephants into one label, we make weak decisions, because each species faces different pressures and requires different management. So the first shift in perspective is simple: elephants are iconic, but they are not interchangeable. Elephants are the surviving branch of a much larger evolutionary history. They belong to Elephantidae within the order Proboscidea, a lineage that once included animals such as mammoths and mastodons. Those relatives are gone, but modern elephants still carry evolutionary solutions built for scale, endurance, and flexibility. Their size provides defense against many predators, but it also forces a constant search for food and water. Their bodies are not oversized versions of smaller herbivores. They are specialized systems designed around a very different biological economy. Every day, elephants must convert large amounts of vegetation into survival while moving through landscapes that are often seasonal and increasingly fragmented. Understanding this evolutionary backdrop helps explain why elephants can be resilient in harsh conditions, yet remain vulnerable when human pressure disrupts migration routes, social groups, and access to core resources. The elephant trunk is one of the most versatile structures in the animal world. It combines the roles of nose, hand, siphon, and social instrument in a single prehensile organ. Elephants use it to pull grasses, strip bark, grass branches, lift objects, draw water, and deliver that water to the mouth or onto skin for cooling. Precision and strength coexist in the same structure. Tusks, which are modified incisor teeth, serve as tools and weapons used for digging, moving obstacles, stripping vegetation, and competing with rivals. Ear flaps do more than hear sound. In hot climates, they help regulate body temperature through blood flow and movement. Thick skin offers protection, but sensitivity remains high, allowing tactile communication and environmental awareness. Put together, these features are not visual trademarks. They are functional adaptations that let elephants survive as massive, mobile herbivores across very different ecosystems. Elephants live in savannas, forests, marshes, and even drier regions, but one factor repeatedly shapes their movement: water. As large herbivores, they must consume huge amounts of plant material and remain connected to reliable hydration when possible. This daily requirement has landscape-level consequences. Elephants are often called keystone species because their feeding and movement can restructure habitats in ways that affect many other organisms. In open systems, they can suppress excessive woody growth, helping preserve grass-dominated zones that support grazing communities. In forests, they disperse seeds and open pathways through dense vegetation, influencing plant regeneration and animal movement. Their dung redistributes nutrients and supports insects and microorganisms that feed broader food webs. So elephants do not merely occupy ecosystems. They actively shape ecological patterns. When elephant populations decline, the loss is not isolated to one species. Entire habitat dynamics can begin to shift. Elephant society is sophisticated and flexible. Their social structure is often described as fission fusion, meaning family units can split and recombine depending on resources, risk, and social context. Female-led family groups form the social core, usually composed of related cows and their offspring. At the center is often a matriarch, typically an older female whose accumulated knowledge can determine group survival. Memory of routes, seasonal water, and danger zones is not abstract intelligence. It is practical leadership. These family units may join other groups to socialize or move apart when conditions demand it. This flexibility allows stability without rigidity. Relationships persist even as group size changes. That social design has consequences for conservation. If a matriarch or other key adults are removed, the impact is not just numerical population loss. It can also mean loss of social memory and decision-making capacity that younger animals rely on for years. Male elephants follow a different trajectory. As bulls approach puberty, they usually leave their natal family group and begin a more independent phase, either solitary or in looser associations with other males. This shift reduces constant reproductive tension inside female family units and creates a separate male social dynamic. Adult bulls interact with female groups mainly when seeking mates, and one major biological state shapes this process: musth. During musth, testosterone rises significantly, and behavior can become more aggressive and dominance-focused. This is not random instability, it is part of reproductive competition that influences mating success. Musth can alter hierarchy among males and increase conflict risk where elephants and people share space. Understanding it is essential for both wildlife managers and local communities. Effective coexistence depends on recognizing that male behavior varies by age, status, and physiological state, not just by species-wide averages. Calves are central to elephant social life, and their development takes time. Young elephants rely heavily on their mothers, often for years, but growth is social as much as biological. Calves learn feeding choices, movement habits, and social signals by living inside multi-generational groups. Other females may help supervise, protect, and guide them, creating a layered learning environment. This long dependency period produces adults capable of navigating complex social and ecological challenges, but it also means recovery from population loss is slow. A high birth count alone does not guarantee resilience if experienced adults are missing. Knowledge transfer matters. Without stable social context, calves may survive physically while lacking behavioral skills that support long-term success. In elephant conservation, this is a critical point. Protecting breeding numbers is necessary, but protecting social structure and learning pathways is equally important for sustaining viable populations over decades. Elephants communicate in ways that operate across multiple distances and sensory channels. At close range, touch, posture, scent, and visual cues reinforce relationships and coordinate immediate behavior. At long range, elephants use low-frequency vocalizations, including infrasound, that can travel farther than typical audible calls for humans. They also detect seismic vibrations through the ground, allowing information transfer beyond line of sight. This matters in habitats where groups are dispersed but still socially connected. Communication can support movement coordination, social reunion, mating opportunities, and response to potential threats. In other words, elephant society depends not only on who is nearby, but on a broader information network spread across space. Habitat fragmentation and human-generated disturbance can interfere with that network. So protecting elephants is partly about preserving communication ecology, not only preserving physical territory on a map. Elephant intelligence is frequently compared with that of primates and cetaceans, and while direct comparisons have limits, evidence points to advanced cognition in memory, problem-solving, and social awareness. Their memory has clear adaptive value, especially in tracking routes, resources, and social relationships over long periods. Observations of behavior around injured or dead elephants suggest a level of social sensitivity that many researchers and observers find striking. We should avoid simplistic human projection, but we should also avoid dismissing complex behavior because it does not fit human categories perfectly. Elephant cognition appears tightly linked to social living, long development, and environmental variability. That combination can produce decision-making systems that are nuanced, context-dependent, and deeply relational. Recognizing this complexity has practical consequences. It shifts conservation from a narrow count-based model toward one that also considers social continuity, welfare, and the behavioral conditions animals need to function naturally. Conservation status shows a clear warning. African forest elephants are listed as critically endangered, while African bush and Asian elephants are listed as endangered. A major driver is the ivory trade, which continues to incentivize poaching for tusks despite long-running restrictions and enforcement efforts. But poaching is only one pressure. Habitat destruction from agriculture, infrastructure, and settlement expansion reduces available range and breaks movement corridors into smaller disconnected fragments. When elephants lose access to traditional routes or feeding grounds, conflict with people often rises, especially around crops and water points. These conflicts can become economically and emotionally severe for local communities, creating cycles of retaliation that further threaten elephant populations. Effective strategy therefore must be integrated. Anti-poaching work, land use planning, corridor protection, and community-centered conflict mitigation all have to operate together rather than as isolated interventions. Human relationships with elephants are complex and historically layered. In parts of Asia, elephants have long been used as working animals. In modern contexts, elephants may also appear in zoos or entertainment systems, often under ethical debate. The key issue is not a simplistic divide between all contact being good or bad. It is whether conditions meet the biological and social needs of an animal built for movement, cognition, and rich social interaction. Captive settings vary widely, and outcomes depend on management quality, space, social compatibility, and stress levels. Public visibility can support education and conservation funding, but it can also normalize inadequate care if standards are weak. Serious discussion requires nuance, evidence, and welfare-centered criteria. If elephants are treated only as symbols, policy becomes shallow. If they are treated as living beings with specific ecological and social requirements, better decisions become possible. The future of elephants will be decided by whether admiration turns into durable systems of protection. That means conserving species-specific habitats, maintaining connectivity across landscapes, reducing ivory demand, and designing policies that work for both wildlife and local communities. It also means accounting for elephant social structure, long development, and communication needs, because numbers alone do not capture population health. Elephants matter not only because they are charismatic. They matter because they are ecological engineers, evolutionary survivors, and social mammals with unusual cognitive depth. Remove them from ecosystems and the consequences ripple outward through plants, animals, and human livelihoods. Keep them, and landscapes retain one of their most powerful stabilizing forces. The choice is not abstract. It is being made now through land policy, enforcement priorities, consumer behavior, and long-term investment. The elephant story is still open, but the window for effective action is not unlimited. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.